Wanted to say that kindness actually matters. People don't act like it today, but it really does matter. When I think about, you know, those young boys, 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony and Metcalf, and the people that were in the tent, I would imagine that if anybody, either Austin Metcalf or Carmelo Anthony, had decided that, you know, there's a thing in life called kindness, Austin Metcalf would be getting ready to go to college. Carmelo Anthony would be getting ready to go to college. He would not be in prison. And Austin Metcalf would not be deceased. It's just a fact. People don't believe in kindness anymore. Everybody wants to be a tough guy. Now, having said all that, I think it's very interesting how the law works in the United States, how people of color are treated a little differently than people from the majority group. I don't really have an opinion that I wish to share about this case. It's kind of irrelevant, and that's not my point. My point is how the law works and how it doesn't seem to work the same for everybody. Do you remember George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin? Trayvon Martin was 17 years old and George Zimmerman was 28 years old. He was 5'7", George Zimmerman. He was between 185 and 200 pounds. Trayvon Martin was 5'11", 158 pounds. So, even though George Zimmerman was shorter, he was anywhere between 20 and 42 pounds heavier than Trayvon Martin. Yet, he felt threatened. He felt like he could lose his life. It was what he claims to have felt. He was afraid for his life. So he was able to use a gun to kill 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. And he was found, as we know, not guilty. So my question is, what decides if a person is big enough for you to use a weapon against them? Is it 300 pounds? Is it if a person is 300 pounds and you are Carmelo Anthony, 162, 300 pounds versus 162, can you use a knife to protect yourself? Is that enough difference for you to feel threatened to the point that you fear for your life? Is that enough? What if it's 250 pounds? What is the line? How do you define a person is big enough for you to be afraid enough for you to feel like you need to use a weapon? And who decides? Now, I don't know what was on anybody's mind that day under that tent, but I do know that there have been people who have lost their lives in fights. And I do not know if he being Carmelo Anthony, I do not know if he was literally afraid for his life, if he was angry. I don't know. I cannot read his mind. But I do know also that George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin and killed him. And he said he was afraid for his life. It was another case of I don't know if George Zimmerman is completely white or whatever, but he's certainly not black. I'm going to call him white. Shooting a young black kid and getting away with it with an all-white jury. Well, it was 5 white women and 1 person that is, they said Hispanic or Hispanic black, but no fully black person. And how different that is that George Zimmerman can start a fight, can cause a fight, initiate conflict, and then turn around and shoot a 17-year-old dead because you were afraid for your life. No one could look into his mind and determine that he was afraid for his life, but he just said he was afraid for his life. But Carmelo Anthony now, you can't look into his mind either. But apparently, he's not able to be afraid for his life. The weight difference between Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf was 38 pounds. They were comparable in height, basically, 5'11" and 6 foot. 38-pound weight difference. The weight difference with George Zimmerman was anywhere from 20 to 42 pounds. George Zimmerman being heavier than Trayvon Martin. So in one case, the heavier person is not heavy enough for Carmelo Anthony to be afraid for his life. But in Zimmerman's case, being heavier, he's okay to fear for his life and take Trayvon Martin's life and be found not guilty. So it's like flipping a coin. Who decides if someone fears for their life? What do you base it upon? How do you determine if somebody is big enough or fat enough or whatever enough for you to be able to use a weapon to defend yourself? And who decides? It seems like it's just hit or miss. It could go however it goes. I mean, there is no rule. So in one case, you can be afraid for your life, kill somebody. In another case, you can't be afraid for your life and use a weapon. But in both cases, you can have a young black person's fate dealt with and handled by an all-white jury or near all-white jury. That's the way it is in the United States for black people. It isn't the same. It is not the same, never has been the same. I don't think it will ever be the same. I don't know how you can best protect yourself in this country as a black person. Maybe stay away as much as you can from situations involving people who are not not from your community. And I have to think that if this whole thing was the other way around and it was a young white kid who used a knife on a heavier black kid, I have to ask myself, would they think that it was impossible for him to fear for his life? I don't know. It seems that black people are often killed in this country, and people are afraid. Like the guy on the bus who was choked out. He was choked until he died. And of course, there was a trial. He was found not guilty as well of killing this black man. So, they say Black Lives Matter, or they made the point that Black Lives Matter with that whole protest and all that after George Floyd. But I'm here to say that no, in America, Black lives do not matter. No, they do not matter as much. And I challenge anyone to, present any information or any data that indicates that Black lives do matter in this country the same as white lives. And that's all I have to say about that today or tonight.